it is her and I'm really bad at this. So it's not like your young woman show. This sounds really stupid. So when you say seriously, my iPad is like, how can I help you? I'm not talking to you, I'm saying seriously. Why don't I look this stuff up before I talk to you guys? Hey everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. Today's video is going to be a continuation of things that I recommend you watch while you're at home in isolation mode. And this is the Netflix edition. And this is probably going to be like the first of 5 videos because there is so much stuff on Netflix that I don't even know where to begin. And I created a crazy list that's whited out by what is now a beautiful sunshiny day. And I don't know how I'm just gonna kind of like chip away at it and talk about stuff. And I feel like for better or for worse, we're gonna be home for quite a while. So there is plenty of time to have plenty of videos to talk about things to watch. But as we ease into the weekend, I thought people might be looking for something to do. I certainly am. So we're just gonna talk about a whole mess of TV shows and movies and series that are out there for the taking. I'm gonna start with some shows that I just finished. And the first one is The Stranger, which is the 3rd Harlan Coben show that is out there. And they're 3 individual shows. So he did The Five, he did Safe, and now The Stranger. And it's, I wanna say like an 8-part series, and I loved it. I was sucked in, compulsive, had to find out what was going to happen. And this was literally a stranger shows up. So there's a man, or a guy, husband, whatever. He's at his son's soccer game. He's like sitting, there's kind of like a bar where they play soccer, which like, if I ever had to go watch a kid's soccer game, this is where I would want to be doing it. But he's like sitting at the bar getting a beer, and this woman sidles up next to him and she reveals a secret about his wife. And he's just like, what are you talking about? But she knows serious, legit details. And she kind of like gets up and walks away and leaves him with his jaw on the floor. And he tries to go after her and find out like who she is and how she found this out and what she's talking about. And it basically upends his entire life. So that's all you need to know, and that's all you want to know going in. You need to go in dark. It's the connections between people. It's trying to figure out what this woman knows, why, who, and all these lives sort of intersect. And the only thing that I will tell you is Giles from Buffy is in this, and I love that. And I didn't even realize he was in it till I started watching it. And he's so not Giles in this, which I love 100 times more. So hooray for Anthony Stewart Head. This is a really good one. I also hugely recommend Safe, which has Michael C. Hall in it. Wait for it. And he plays the dad, and it's his daughter goes missing, and it is tremendous. Same kind of pace, twisty. If you read Harlan Coben books, you kind of know how he works. And then The Five is a group of friends, and when they were younger, one of the guy's younger brothers goes missing. They're all like playing out in the woods, and I think it's like 20 years later, and his younger brother, who's never been found, just presumed missing, gone, no body, no anything, his DNA shows up at a crime scene in the current day. So also crazy twisted and so good. So I highly recommend all of those. The next show is Unbelievable, and this is so incredibly well done, but I will warn you, so incredibly hard to watch. This is based on a true story. It takes place in 2 different timelines. We start in 2008 in Washington State, where a young woman is raped in her apartment, and she reports it to the police, and long story short, they don't believe her. She is completely traumatized by this, understandably, and they basically get her to recant her statement. And then 3 years later in Colorado, a woman is raped in her apartment, and a detective on the case there basically connects with a detective nearby, and they piece together a series of rapes that have happened over the past few years, and they connect everything that happened leading all the way back to the woman in 2008. It is so powerful. It is so well done, but I will be 100% honest. I read a lot of dark stuff and I've watched a lot of dark stuff. The first episode of this, it is graphic in a way that I think serves the story. I don't think it is unnecessary. I think it's done in the way so that you understand what she went through. And then the beginning of the second episode where the first rape happens in Colorado, same thing. But it is probably some of the hardest things I have watched. And after I watched the first episode, I was like, I'm done. I can't watch this. I kid you not. I have a bench, like one of those benches that you can store stuff in by my front door. So when you come in, you can take your shoes off. I pushed it in front of my front door because I was that freaked out when I went to bed that night. So weeks later, on a Saturday afternoon when it was nice outside and it was bright daylight, I dove back in and I wound up watching the rest of the series. And once you get into the second half of the second episode, we really trigger the police investigation and it becomes all investigative. So there's still some difficult content, but it's much more focused on the investigation and the detectives in it. Incredibly well done. If you can watch it, I would highly recommend it, but I would just warn you about the content being really difficult for this one. To lighten things up a little bit, let's talk about Dead to Me, which I have mentioned before. It was Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini and James Marsden, which is fantastic dark comedy. And bear with me, Christina Applegate's husband is killed in a hit and run, and she is the grieving widow, and she goes to a support group and she meets Linda Cardellini and they become sort of friends in grief, so to speak. And Christina Applegate is on the mission to find out who murdered her husband because they never caught the hit and run driver. So it is like her trying to cope with her grief. She has 2 sons. She's got the mother-in-law that she's dealing with. And then we've got Linda Cardellini's character who is also grieving, and she's this eccentric, kind of hysterical, complicated woman. And then together they just sort of help each other through what they're going through. It is funny as can be. I highly, hugely recommend it. Loved this one, and this is one I'm definitely gonna watch again. There's gonna be a season 2, which I'm excited about, but this is, if you need a little bit of a laugh, this is the way to go. Something in the feel-good category, Gilmore Girls. Hands down, all the seasons, a year in the life movie. I am obsessed with this show. I loved it from the get-go. Lauren Graham is my hero. I just think the writing, the acting, the relationships, all of it. It's smart, it's witty, it's fast, it's clever. I love all the references. I love the generational relationships. Emily Gilmore is outstanding. Kelly Bishop does such a wonderful job in this role. Edward Herrmann is great, just all of it. I love Logan. I really do. I really, really do. I just think it's just such a great show. It's totally reliable. I think there's just so much humor to it, but it can be emotional, it can be heartfelt, it can be upsetting, relatable with the family relationships, the friendships, the romantic relationships, all of it. Such a great show. A Year in the Life is also, I think it's great. I hope they bring it back. I want more of this show. But if you have not watched Gilmore Girls, do it now. And if you've watched it, this is one of those shows that you can watch like a million times over, I think. If you want a little nostalgia, and I like loosely use that word because these shows are not that old, but Grey's Anatomy and Private Practice are on here, and these are also 2 shows that I loved. I admit I did drop off the Grey's bandwagon after a while, but those first few seasons were just, again, well-written, sharp, smart, witty, complicated, all the life and death that you get in the hospital, all the friendship, all the romantic relationships. There's just so many, just Christina Yang, and She's My Person, and McSteamy and McDreamy, and I loved Katherine Heigl when she was in this show. This is one of those shows where like anything goes, you never know what you're gonna see or hear. It is people making bad choices, it is people making good choices. I loved the spin-off of Private Practice. I also thought this was super well done. I love Addison Montgomery's character. I loved seeing her in The New World. I also liked when she would dip back and be at Seattle Grace. I just loved her as the foil to Meredith there. But there's so many great actors. There's so many great cameos that are on Private Practice. And this is like the Shonda Rhimes land. So Scandal is also on Netflix. But you really see in Private Practice a lot of the actors who wind up showing up in Scandal, which I think is just also tremendous fun, because I'm just love that stuff and love seeing people that are in Shonda's family that she brings onto all of her other shows. And Scandal is another one. I stopped watching it at a certain point, but those first few seasons were, oh my God, like, I can't believe I'm watching this. I can't believe this is happening. Smart, twisted, almost felt like in that first season or so that this is really stuff that could be happening in the White House. Kerry Washington, Olivia Pope's wardrobe is something to just tune in for. I am a big fan of the wine and popcorn for dinner, as these ladies like to do. I just think it was such a great show. I loved all the this is like my dark, you know, people doing really bad things and people making really dark decisions. And I don't even think there's like morally gray with a lot of these people. It's just real dark sides of people, real dark sides of their characters. I love everything about what she did in those first few seasons, and I was just such a sucker for this show, like tuned in all the time, which of course, you know, I'm going to talk about How to Get Away with Murder, because that's another one. I am watching this till the bitter end. I have watched every season of this. I am in it to win it. I'm very curious to see how this show winds up. But this is another one. Those first few seasons, it took a turn at one point. I think you all know what point that was, when they made a choice that I wasn't a fan of. But those first few seasons, I might have even been like 4. I tuned in, couldn't get enough of the show. Smart, complicated, like Annalise is just such a great character on so many dimensions. I think the whole Keating Five, the different sides of these people, the things that they do, the choices they make, the ruthlessness that a lot of them have, but at the same time, the love for each other, the way they protect one another, just what they will do, Frank, all of it. I could talk forever about it, but this entire like Shonda Rhimes series, I think there's something different in each one. I think they obviously got progressively darker as we went through things, but I think you could just definitely dive into any one of these shows, and especially the first few seasons of each one of these could totally pull you down a rabbit hole for an entire weekend, if not more. Another show that has a really solid first couple of seasons to it is Riverdale, season 1 in particular, which I think is only maybe like 8 or 10 episodes, is outstanding, I think. It is, again, dark turn on the Archie Comics characters, on Riverdale itself. There is tremendous humor in a very dark way to this show. Smart, witty, great lines, great comebacks, great just snark amongst the characters. And you've got Josie and the Pussycats, and you've got all your regular Riverdale folks. For those of us who are not of the Archie target audience age, even though all those actors are older, you've got Skeet Ulrich in this, you have Luke Perry in this. There are, you know, the people who play the parents are the people that were my teenage heartthrob. So like, not that Mark Consuelos was my teenage heartthrob, but Kelly Ripa's husband, Mark Consuelos, is in this. It's just so incredibly well done, I think. I love the murder mystery in the first season. It wound up making some choices I didn't totally love down the road, but I think those first couple of seasons, the dynamics between the characters and the actors is so well done. The mysteries, the twists, the turns, and I just love the overall kind of overarching darkness that plays a role in this show. But again, really well done. First couple seasons, down the rabbit hole you should go. So 2 more shows that I wanted to talk about, which were on Bravo, and I don't really hear many people talk about these, and they have a connection. But the first one is Impostors, and this was only on for 2 seasons, but this was created by Paul Adelstein, who starred in Private Practice, who starred in the other show I want to talk about, The Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce. And this was about a woman who was like a marital con artist. So basically when the show opens, this guy Ezra is wonderfully in love and super happy, and comes home one day and his wife's not there, and he sees this note on the fridge that basically directs him to a website, and it's his wife who is basically like stolen all his money, completely destroyed him on every level, and has ruined his life and just sort of like wiped him out completely and disappeared into thin air. And he's obviously not doing well with it. And a guy shows up at his house who was a previous victim of the marital con artist. And they basically go on the road to try and find this woman. So you get these guys kind of on their mission to find her. And then you have our con artist and her group of grifters on to the next con. So you're following them, and it kind of becomes a little cat and mouse game. And I really enjoyed this show. I thought it was well done. I thought it was clever. I loved the chase of it all. I loved sort of the mystery, if you will, of it all, of them trying to find her and her trying to stay on the run, and the new con that she is in with her grifter friends, and how not every con goes smoothly. But it only lasted for 2 seasons, which I'm bummed about, but both seasons are on Bravo, or on Netflix, so that's an easy peasy one. And then the other show is Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, and this is with Lisa Edelstein, and Paul Adelstein plays her husband. Tongue twist that one. And basically, she plays a woman named Abby. They're married, they have 2 kids. He's a director, she is a successful writer, and she has written all these books of the girlfriend's guides, the girlfriend's guide to marriage and the girlfriend's guide to having a baby, and blah 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 blah. And basically her and her husband are kind of on the skids. He's having an affair. He's kind of living like this reckless Hollywood lifestyle. She's trying to keep it together for their children. And she kind of has a bit of a faux pas at a book signing. And this is like episode 1. And basically is like kind of complaining about her husband, and says something to the effect of like, sometimes I wish he would just die. And it goes viral and basically like threatens her brand, her everything. He moves out, and it's sort of this whole show with like their complicated relationship and his new girlfriend and her best friends who are divorced, or one of them is like a divorce lawyer and she never wants to get married, and it's relationshipy and family and parental, but there's great humor to it. But most of the women are in their 40s, so it's showing sort of women at this stage of their life and things that you go through with family, with career. This, not in any kind of way, but I just finished reading that book, Separation Anxiety by Laura Zigman, and it talks about, you know, I don't even want to call it like middle age, but like this time in a woman's life where things start to change physically, where you maybe start to feel more invisible, where your career choices might change, and this all being set out in Hollywood and LA and the pressures there. And of course her husband is dating like this 22-year-old actress who's on the CW and stuff like that. So it's smart, it's funny. More power to Lisa Edelstein for some of the stuff that she does in this show. Like, I just think it was just really smart. There is definitely like some sexy time stuff in this, but it's on Bravo, so it's like PG TV kind of stuff. But I really enjoyed this show. Like I said, I watched it till the end. I love Paul Adelstein as an actor and a character. He also shows up in Scandal. Like, he's like all over my list here. But I just really enjoy him, and he just plays such a jerk as her husband. When this all opens, he's just a mess. But 100% love it, 100% recommend it, and that's why it's on my list. I am a sucker for the British mystery show, so also highly recommend Broadchurch. This is Olivia Colman and David Tennant and a whole bunch of other people who, if you watch a lot of British crime shows, you start to recognize all the actors because they pop up in them. But this is Olivia Colman being her best self, and this is an 11-year-old boy, Danny Latimer, is found dead on the beach in this small town of Broadchurch, and it understandably rocks the entire community. This is one of those shows where everyone is a suspect, and Olivia Colman and David Tennant are the police investigating this. And Danny was Olivia Colman's son's best friend. There's so many questions. There's so many things going on in this. There's so many great characters. The acting is outstanding in this. It is gut-wrenching. It is so well done. I cannot say enough great things about this show. Watch it if you haven't. Another great British show is Paranoid. This only had 1 season to it, which I'm bummed about. This is, I never watched The Sinner, but I watched like the first half of the first episode. So this is similar in the sense that like there's a woman in the park and someone like comes by and just like stabs her to death, basically, kind of inexplicably. And that's how this opens, and then it becomes a police investigation, but there's complications and connections, kind of in a Broadchurchy way. They're in a small town. You start to see the connections between the different characters, and they try and unravel the mystery of the murder. And it's following the police detective, so these are procedural, detective-y kind of shows. And then the last one is called Dr. Foster, and this is less mystery, but the reason I watched this in the first place is because Jodie Comer, who's in Killing Eve, is in this, and she did this before Killing Eve. But basically, this opens when a woman finds out that her husband is having an affair, and it is the lengths she goes to after she finds this out, and sort of how her life unravels and is affected, and how she finds out who he's having the affair with. So it's like that kind of a mystery. And this only had 2 seasons, but again, I was like fully invested. This is another one where it's really the impact on her life, the impact to her family. It's painful in some ways, but it's really well done, and I just like wholly enjoyed it. So that is literally just a smattering of the shows that are out there, but these are definitely some of my go-tos. I am someone who watches shows over and over again. I watch movies over and over again. And if I just need a fix, or if I want to catch up on a show, or I just want to be set into a certain mood, sometimes I will just turn some of these on. If I'm looking for inspiration when I'm writing, sometimes I like to get lost in these murder mysteries because it just sort of puts me in the right headspace. But again, I feel like all of these shows are smart, well-written, super entertaining. Again, some definitely have some heavier content to them. Some are definitely on the murder mystery thrillery side, which you guys know that I love. But all in, I think any one of these shows that you go with, you can't go wrong. But let me know if you've watched any of these or other shows that you would recommend. There are so many. I need to even like talk about the shows that I haven't watched that I want to watch that are on Netflix, but we will get to that at a later date. But let me know what you guys are up to this weekend, if you're hunkering down with anything in particular, and we will just keep on talking about all the stuff that is worth talking about. So I hope you guys are all doing really well. I hope everyone is having a lovely weekend, or whenever you're watching this, a great day. And thank you for spending a bit of it with me. And I will see you guys really soon in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye.